Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoiint and today we're unboxing the 2023 77-inch LG G3 OLED. Now this is probably the most excited I've been about unboxing a new TV on the channel in quite some time. And that's because this isn't just a review unit, this is my new TV. And it looks awesome. Today I'll get it unboxed, run through the install and how I've hidden the cables in my wall, talk about these specs, then give you my first impressions. Now the G3 will be replacing my 2021 C1, so there should be a nice step up in terms of the brightness with the new MLA tech. Everything I cover today will apply to the other sizes, including the 55, 65 and 83-inch models, just the dimensions will be different. As always, any questions just drop them below and I will answer those and cover them in my full review. Before we open this up, here are the measurements of the box, although I don't think many of you will fit this in your car as it's massive. Right, let's see what we get inside the box. So this here contains the wall bracket, and as this TV is designed to be wall mounted, it does not come with a tabletop stand at all. Then we get a bag of accessories, which includes the Magic Remote Control, something that we've seen tweaked over the last few years but mostly looks the same. There's a couple of batteries, an IR blaster and the manuals, and that is everything that we get. Now normally I would install the stand and then show you around the back, but as mentioned there isn't a stand on the G series OLEDs, so I'll need to show you the rear before we put it on the wall. Now unlike the C series where the top half is ultra thin and the bottom half is thicker to house the internals, the G series is a couple of centimeters thick all over. It's also got a hard plastic case and a metal frame around the edges. One thing I do like is the fact I might be able to fit an LED strip around the sides on this lip. In the middle we have the 4 screws to attach to the wall bracket, but it does also come with VESA holes, so you can use your own bracket if you don't want to use the one provided. On the right side we have all of the available ports. There are 4 HDMI 2.1 ports, all of which support 4K, 120Hz and VRR. HDMI 2 can be used for eARC, and that allows you to send audio down to your AVR or your soundbar. And it's great to see that all of the HDMIs are facing the same way, none are facing down or out, so it'll make it easier for swapping cables out once it's on the wall. Then there are 3 USB ports, an Ethernet port, an optical out, cable and satellite ports, and the RF blaster port if you needed to use it. The only port it doesn't have on the G3 is the headphone out, which I doubt many of you will use as it does support Bluetooth 5.0. And as this is designed to be flush to your wall, the ports are very slightly recessed so they shouldn't stick out behind the TV. Then under that there's a cable management trunking, where you can clip and manage your cables to try and keep them out of sight. But this is definitely one of the best solutions that I've ever seen on the back of a TV. At least it beats the cable ties that we often see. Then on the left side there's the power cable, which is hardwired to the TV, and unfortunately this means it cannot be removed. So it's not ideal, but there are a few workarounds if you needed to wall mount it. And before we put this on the wall, here are the dimensions of the 77-inch model. I've also added a few measurements that you won't find online, but it might help you in your own setup. So inside the box it comes with this bracket to allow you to wall mount it. This is designed to fit inside the recess area on the back of the TV and means it will look ultra flush on your wall. Now I will be using my own bracket, but here's what you need to do if you use the LG one instead. So it comes with a paper guide to allow you to stick it to your wall, then you'll drill the 4 holes and fit the bracket in place. Then following their instructions you need to attach the blue labels to the bracket and the red labels to the rear of your TV. Now fit this cardboard box to prevent the bracket from closing during the install. Flick these mounting pins and hang the TV on your wall using the labels to line it up. Now once it's on your wall, remove the cardboard, lock these pins, and then push it back against your wall and you're good to go. Now in my setup I will be using this VESA bracket instead. It's rated up to 50 kilograms and although it says up to 75 inches, this will be absolutely fine for 77 inches. This is also the same brand that I used in my last house, which I had about 10 different TVs on over the years. So I am very confident with it and I have linked to it below. Now the reason I've opted to use this VESA bracket over the LG one is because I regularly swap my TVs out for reviews, and if I installed the LG bracket instead, it would always be on my wall and I would see it behind every TV that I filmed. Now as for the cables, I've actually decided to have them hidden inside my wall. Now as they are solid brick with plasterboard on top, I wasn't able to just cut a hole and feed the cables through. I actually needed to have the walls cut instead. So I've had 4 HDMI 2.1 cables and 1 Ethernet port fitted inside along with brush plates at the top and bottom. Now you might wonder why the exit plate is so much lower than the rest of the plugs, and that's because I want the cables to go straight into my unit instead of the shelf above. It was then filled over with polyfiller, but it does need another coat and sanding back before it's finished. Now one thing to note is the power cable is hardwired to the TV. I didn't want to put this inside the wall for obvious reasons, so I've booked an electrician to install a new socket behind the TV. I actually did this in my last house, and it's the easiest and cleanest way to do it. It just means until then you're going to see this power cable hanging down, although you might have noticed I have painted it grey, just so it doesn't stand out as much. Hopefully by the time I create the full review video in a couple of weeks it will be finished. Okay, so after a few hours of getting it on the wall, sorting out all of the cables and putting everything back in place, here it is. And the first thing we have got to do is remove the protective film, as if you don't, you'll have this crazy reflective screen. Just look at the difference, this is night and day. And wow, first impressions, this looks awesome. Even with the bracket that I'm using, you can see how thin the profile is and how close it hangs to the wall. It's without doubt one of the nicest looking TVs out there when it comes to the overall design. I'm liking the frame with its brushed metal finish, which I wasn't sure about at first, but now it's on the wall, it makes the screen look practically borderless. And the thin bezels are crazy thin, so it makes the picture look like it's floating. There's only a slight notch at the bottom in the middle for the sensor, but there's no LG branding at all on the front, so it's super clean. So setting up is pretty straightforward. It's a case of running through the on-screen prompts, things like choosing the language, accepting the terms and conditions, whether you're using a stand or wall mounting it, and the different AI picture and sound options. I've chosen to show the home screen each time it's powered on, but you can also choose to jump to the last input used, and that's ideal if you're using a connected device for all of your content. I also always enable the auto updates. I know many others will wait and see what those updates are before installing them, but I just go for it. Then install any apps that you need and we're good to go. Once it's on, the first thing that I do is check for updates and disable the energy saving mode. This just prevents the screen from automatically dimming the picture. So here we go, this is the 77-inch G3 from LG, and wow, this picture is just insane. I was pretty skeptical before turning it on thinking surely this isn't going to be that different to my C1 or last year's C2, but I was wrong. The MLA or the micro lens array tech that LG have introduced in the 2023 G3 has clearly made a huge difference. This is without doubt brighter than the C1 and C2 OLEDs. In fact, on first impressions, this is brighter than the Samsung S95B and Sony A95K that I reviewed a few months ago. And it's 50% brighter than the LG G2 OLED. And you know what? Something that has really impressed me already is how sharp the 4K HDR and Dolby Vision content really looks. Coming into this with 5 to 6 years of OLED ownership, I didn't think I would be this impressed with a new TV, but this feels new. So far I've watched a couple of movies, TV shows and played some games, and the colours look natural, vibrant and really pop. At the time of recording this, I've not tweaked any of the settings at all, and this is straight out of the box as most people would probably use it. But after a few tweaks over the coming weeks, I know this will look even better. Now as it's an OLED, we also get those crazy black levels, where the dark areas of the screen are jet black instead of looking washed out or grey. And even though this has a glossy screen and I'm filming this during the day, you'll notice the reflection handling is really good. In fact, the tint on this is a lot darker than any previous LG OLEDs. I mean, looking straight at a window, you're obviously going to see that in those dark areas, but it will reduce the reflections in your room. Pair that with the brighter screen and this is perfect for viewing during the day, which has always been a huge drawback for OLEDs. When it comes to gaming, this is packing everything that we need to see for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, as well as PC. That includes Nvidia G-Sync, AMD FreeSync Premium and VRR. And gaming looks awesome on here. So like with most other recent TVs, the G3 does come with HDMI 2.1 ports for some glorious 4K and 120Hz gaming. But what the LG offers is 4 of those ports, not just 2, so plenty of connections for everything that you need to plug in. So far from the little game that I've tested out over the last week, motion is great, HDR and brightness is impressive, and the image quality just blows me away. And something worth highlighting is the Game Optimizer mode. LG introduced this a few years ago and it's still a brilliant feature to have while gaming. By default, this is switched off, so make sure you go into the Game Optimizer settings and toggle this on. From now, it will always show up when you press the settings button on the remote. And it's a great place to check what your FPS is running at and tweak some of the picture settings as you go. Now I normally game at my desk setup for any kind of first person games like Call of Duty, but for everything else I always use my TV setup. And I can tell this TV is going to be awesome for every game that I play on it. Input lag is rapid as well, coming in at under 5 milliseconds, which is quicker than the previous LG OLEDs that I've had. It's obviously still not quite as quick as a dedicated gaming monitor, but for a TV this is seriously rapid. And if we take a quick look at the UI and menus, you'll see it's very similar to the previous models. Although I should point out that the settings menu is slightly different. When you press the settings button, you now get this quick menu instead. From here, it's got a handful of options that you can tweak before jumping into the full settings. These settings appear to be the same overall, but I will dive deeper into this in the full review. I was secretly hoping the dashboard or the home screen would have been updated, but again this looks the same as last year. So we get all of the apps and icons across the bottom, which you can move around and organise them as you'd like. And we have all of the major apps you'd expect like Netflix, Prime and Apple TV. I pretty much exclusively use the inbuilt apps now for all of the content that I watch. And the Magic Remote Control is also unchanged. This lets you wave an arrow around and control the screen. I know a few don't like this, but sometimes it's easier than tapping the arrows or using the scroll wheel. And talking about the wheel is a lot smoother than before and less clicky, but otherwise it's pretty much the same. So as for my first impressions of the G3 OLED, I think this could be the perfect TV. I mean, every year there's a new TV that's great, but there's always a negative or a compromise. Whereas with this, it ticks every single box. It's bright, has a great picture, low profile, great for gaming, and the reflection handling is just unreal. I'm trying to think of a negative. I guess the price, but I also think it's worth it. I imagine this will win several awards this year, including Best TV for 2023. It's that good. So over the coming month I will do a full review, then a comparison of the G3 versus my C1 before I sell it, talking about the differences and whether it's worth the upgrade. Now if you cannot wait for my full review and you're still not sure whether you want to go for this, my only comment on this is the best TV that I've ever had. Now drop a nice G3 OLED in the comments and I'll give you a thumbs up for staying right till the end. And if you did enjoy today's video, check out this video next. Thanks for watching, please like, sub and follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Until next time.